Episode 1 of The Boys Season 4 starts with Victoria Newman stepping on stage to loud applause. While she's giving her big speech, Kimiko is there working as a waitress. The boys' team crashes the party, but Butcher is out back throwing up because of the effects of Temp V. This also reminds everyone that he's on borrowed time. The rest of the team is cautious about him, especially since he's supposed to cover their exit instead of taking part in the plan directly. Elsewhere, Homelander gives Ryan a pep talk backstage, making him repeat that people are just toys for their amusement. Homelander is there to support the new administration, but Newman isn't happy to see him. Remember how Butcher was told not to get involved? Well, he does get involved and talks to Ryan, pleading with him to leave. But Homelander shows up, knowing Butcher's time is limited. As they leave, it's revealed that Victoria's daughter Zoe is also a Supe. Kimiko and Frenchie are forced to escape by jumping out a window. When the whole team is together, Victoria arrives to see Huey. He's shocked to find out she's given her daughter the compound. Victoria is now basically indestructible, and even a bullet to the brain from Butcher, who shows up and dramatically says "dodge this," doesn't stop her. After the failed mission, Butcher is forced out, while Mother's Milk gets scolded by Grace Mallory. 2 agents were killed by Zoe, and their plan to use acid on Victoria fails miserably when Huey hits her with a vial, but it does nothing. Butcher meets an old friend, Kessler, who gives him some encouraging words. They're getting closer to death camps created by Supies to round up and eliminate humans. Meanwhile, the 7 need new members, and Homelander is tired of everyone being yes men. However, no one dares to oppose him because of his power. Homelander decides to visit Sister Sage, one of the suggested Supies and the most intelligent person in the world. When Homelander visits Sister Sage, she quickly realizes he's having an existential crisis. Despite his power, she holds her own against him. Surprised by her insight, Homelander opens up to her about how meaningless everything feels. Sage compares him to Caesar, advising him not to act like a Nazi, but instead to encourage people to fight among themselves so he can swoop in and save them as the hero. Impressed, Homelander decides he wants her to join the 7. Huey refuses to abandon Butcher and insists he remains part of the team, even if he's on the outskirts. That night, Butcher meets with Victoria and tries to make a deal. Newman agrees to help stop Homelander and work with Butcher, but she wants the material Huey has on her about the Red River Group home. They reach a fragile agreement. Huey goes to the hospital and finds his father admitted, feeling guilty for not answering his call earlier. Meanwhile, Mother's Milk and the others decide to track down Todd. As they gather information, Todd walks into a terrible situation. The 7 are there, with Homelander and Sage. Homelander orders the 7 to beat Todd and the other hardcore fans to death with bats. They comply, while Mother's Milk, Frenchie, and Kimiko watch Homelander leave before heading to his trial. Sage attends the courthouse dressed in Starlight's colors, as Homelander is predictably found not guilty. She stirs up trouble by throwing coffee and yelling "fascist," causing a riot. This is part of her plan, placing Annie and Homelander in the chaos. Homelander has A-Train plant the bodies of his hardcore fans to make Annie and her group look like the aggressors. However, they didn't expect to take photos of Sage outside the warehouse. At the end of the episode, Butcher sees a vision of Becca in his apartment. She encourages him to do the right thing and be the man she married, which includes not making a deal with Victoria. Instead of sending her the files, he attaches an explicit photo of his backside. Episode 2 of The Boys Season 4 starts with a film shoot featuring Will Ferrell as Coach Brink and A-Train. A-Train isn't happy with how his family is portrayed in the script. During a break, Noir 2 talks to A-Train, bringing up the murders and the messed up situation. A-Train tells him to keep quiet, but it's uncertain if he will. At the hospital, Annie and Huey are with Huey's father. Huey's mom, whom he hasn't seen since he was 6, is also there. She has power of attorney over his father and even signed a DNR. She says she can handle the situation, but Huey has had enough and leaves. In another part of town, Frenchie and Colin end up getting together after the protest. Frenchie takes care of Colin, who got injured during the riot, and they share a heartfelt moment before parting ways. There's an obvious connection between them, but Frenchie seems hesitant to fully embrace it. Meanwhile, Kimiko continues to struggle with her ability to speak and seeks help from a therapist. The session becomes intense when they discuss her parents, leading Kimiko to lose control and break the arms of a chair in frustration before storming out. Back at the boys' headquarters, Kimiko returns to find tensions running high. Mother's Milk decides to make a tough call and expel Butcher from the group. Huey isn't pleased with the decision, but he's outnumbered and warned that he'll face the same fate if he continues to support Butcher. At Vought HQ, a new costume for Ryan is revealed, promoting the homeboy concept, a younger version of Homelander. While everyone supports this idea, Sage disagrees. She argues that Ryan, as a natural-born soupy, should embrace his identity authentically, bringing up race and criticizing Hollywood's tendency to favor white boy loners. She suggests Ryan should play into that narrative, especially as he prepares for a PG movie role. After the meeting, Sage also encourages the Deep, advising him not to tolerate Ashley's disrespectful behavior. The Deep dismisses it, attributing it to that time of the month, but Sage motivates him nonetheless. Empowered by her words, the Deep confronts Ashley at lunch and asserts himself, feeling emboldened by his newfound confidence. Despite her intelligence, Sage's phone ends up bugged without her knowledge, at least not yet. The group follows her to TruthCon for reconnaissance, where everyone is gathered. Butcher unexpectedly shows up, claiming to be just a private citizen with concerns. Mother's Milk reluctantly allows him to tag along since he can't turn him away. Sage's real reason for being at TruthCon is to meet with Firecracker, a soupy known for her conspiracy-laden vlogs and rallying ideological causes. She sees Firecracker as someone who can sell a purpose through storytelling and mobilizing people for a common cause. Meanwhile, Huey and Annie follow A-Train and unexpectedly gather evidence that helps prove the innocence of Starlighters accused of murder. Impressed by Firecracker, Sage arranges to meet her at the Deep Blue Sea Room, a location previously seen when Kimiko and Frenchie were investigating. Back at the base, tensions rise between Butcher and Mother's Milk as they clash over the best approach to the situation. Frustrated, Mother's Milk physically confronts Butcher and insists he leave. A tipsy Kimiko joins Frenchie and Mother's Milk as they head to the Blue Sea Room, only to realize they've been deceived. Left alone in a room, the boys face off against a man who turns out to be a soupy capable of duplicating himself. Despite being caught off guard, the boys manage to gain the upper hand in the fight, even against the naked duplicates. Just when things seem dire, Butcher arrives and shifts the tide in their favor. Meanwhile, the staged event to boost Ryan's image takes a dark turn. Ryan inadvertently kills a man by using his strength to slam him into a wall, causing the man to splatter into pieces. It's a shocking and gruesome scene, leaving Ryan grappling with the morality of his actions. Homelander, far from empathetic, sits Ryan down and cynically explains that having him there is good for his public image statistics. Ryan begins to realize the cold truth about Homelander's lack of empathy and manipulation. That night, Huey confronts his mother about their troubled past, particularly recalling the heartbreaking memory of their last meeting when he was just 6 years old. He asserts himself, refusing to yield to her power of attorney and insisting on making decisions together from now on. Threatening legal action, Huey storms out, determined to take control of the situation. Meanwhile, Kimiko is resolute on seeking vengeance against traffickers. Butcher arrives at the boys' headquarters to talk to Mother's Milk. They have a candid discussion about their shared history, including Butcher's past mistakes and the recent risky mission at TruthCon. Butcher expresses his desire to be involved, wanting to do right by Ryan. However, Mother's Milk refuses, stating it's too late for Butcher to be part of their plans now. Episode 3 of The Boys Season 4 opens with signs of Homelander's internal struggles becoming more apparent. At a Vought conference, he deflects attention from himself by highlighting Starlighters as America's biggest threat, but his mental state is clearly deteriorating. To divert further focus, Homelander introduces Sister Sage and Firecracker as the newest members of the Seven, reserving a spot for his son Ryan. Tensions escalate at Vought's headquarters as Sage openly clashes with Homelander over his strategies. Despite this, Firecracker proves effective in promoting her messaging. Meanwhile, at Starlight HQ, a disturbance occurs when a man accuses them of harboring children in the basement and attempts to intervene with a gun. Frenchie intervenes and diffuses the situation by subduing the man. While all this unfolds at Newman's headquarters, the team discusses the possibility of launching an anti-soupy campaign and advocating for their outright ban. Robert Singer, an executive, believes Vought has wielded too much power for too long and advocates for change. Meanwhile, Butcher enlists Kessler in his mission to retrieve Ryan. Kimiko persuades Frenchie to join her in seeking vengeance against the traffickers who harmed her. Across Vote HQ, Mother's Milk aims to recruit A-Train to their cause, seeing him as a potential insider. In a significant development, Sage takes over Ashley's position as CEO of the Seven. She immediately questions the team about leaked footage from crime analytics, putting Deep under scrutiny as it happened under his watch. Deep, stressed about the situation, finds solace in his relationship with his pet octopus, Ambrosius. Sage suggests a vacation to alleviate his stress, but Deep fears the risks involved. Mother's Milk confronts A-Train, leveraging his involvement in 3 deaths to convince him to switch sides. Despite A-Train's initial hostility, it's evident he's considering the proposition. The timing is crucial, especially as Homelander executes a woman who confesses to aiding Annie with Vought's data. Meanwhile, Firecracker visits Annie, who is puzzled by the intense animosity directed towards her. It's revealed that Firecracker, formerly known as Sparkler, harbors bitterness because she placed second to Starlight in a competition. The root of her animosity, however, stems from Annie spreading a false rumor accusing Firecracker of inappropriate relations with competition judges. Annie's insults about Firecracker's appearance further fueled the resentment, shedding light on Firecracker's deep-seated grudge and motivation. Ryan visits Butcher, and during their time together, Ryan witnesses a more compassionate side of Butcher when he opens up about the person he has hurt. This contrasts starkly with Homelander's cold demeanor. Butcher honestly expresses his fears and insecurities about parenting and his determination to do right by Becca. This vulnerability resonates with Ryan. Meanwhile, Kimiko and Frenchie break into a warehouse in search of traffickers. Frenchie, not sober this time, experiences hallucinations while Kimiko takes charge of the situation. His hallucinations include visions of Colin, a bathtub, dead bodies, and even little Nina, creating a visually striking and intense sequence. With everyone else occupied, Huey and Mother's Milk are left to plant the bug at Vought on Ice. While Huey sneaks through the vents, he overhears Homelander giving advice to Victoria about embracing her role as a soup and living up to her legacy. Unfortunately, Huey's sweating betrays his presence when a drop falls on Homelander's shoulder. Realizing Huey is listening in, Homelander gives chase. A frantic chase ensues, leading to chaos and violence. Just as Huey struggles to escape, surprisingly, A-Train swoops in and rescues him. It's an ironic twist that the very super speed that ruined Huey's life now saves him. Later, Huey visits his mother at the hospital and learns the truth behind her departure. She confesses she left because of severe depression that had plagued her for years. The daily tasks were overwhelming, and she even attempted suicide. It was a matter of life and death for her, which eventually led to her leaving Huey. Meanwhile, the Deep confronts Sage over the debacle involving the crime analytics department. The tension quickly escalates into a passionate and indulgent sexual encounter between them, fueled by their mutual attraction and the presence of food. Simultaneously, Ryan returns to see Homelander, who detects Butcher's scent on him. Homelander expresses disappointment in Ryan, believing him to be inadequate, and in a fit of frustration, he smashes a window. As Ryan flees, Homelander begins to experience a mental breakdown. He hears voices and sees distorted reflections of himself in the shattered mirror, grappling with his deep-seated need for love, which he perceives as a sickness. Determined to confront this inner turmoil, Homelander resolves to go home. The explanation of the remaining episodes of The Boys Season 4 will be available soon. Bye-bye. See you soon.